Hi, Gabby.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Brilliant video. Okay, I mean, so inspiring, Suzanne.
Thank
Years and
you.
years of experience, right? So really, really, really lovely video. So, look, now we only have about half an hour to address any questions people may have. So let's go to is it Arpine or Arpine? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name, but your question is absolutely beautiful. So, Susan, what do you have to say to this? This actually takes me to another question, Suzanne, that I think it's slightly kind of linked to the question from the chat. I wanted to ask you about qualifications, and because we're talking about different ways of teaching, right? So the question is about the difference between a year-round school and a summer camp and the way we actually teach. So, I've been thinking, again, experience, right? Obviously, we are having to employ and hire teachers who are CELTA or Trinity TESL qualified, right? So we are having to employ teachers with this kind of specific qualification. But the truth is that the way we teach at a summer camp has nothing to do with CELTA, or very little. Okay, don't want to go to any extremes, but very little to do with the actual CELTA way of teaching. So I was wondering if perhaps you could, I don't know, shed some light on maybe 2, 3, or 4 adaptations, if you will, that CELTA qualified teachers would probably have to think about when they are considering teaching at a summer camp.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, Gabby. I think when we're looking at CELTA qualified teachers and in a summer camp, I will be honest with you that some of my most successful teachers who have been on the summer camp don't have the formal CELTA qualification. Now, I'm thinking right now about one of my teachers who actually has now become a senior teacher, and he's been with us for many years. And his approach is, it is very much, it's a very practical approach. It's an approach that is very musically, it's based on music. A lot of his classes end up with people, the students are singing and playing instruments and things like that. And as far as if you're sort of, let's say, classically trained, if we're talking about, you've done your CELTA, or you've done your set teacher, or whatever it is that you've decided to invest your time in. The main difference, I would say, Gabby, that we have to really consider is the time frame, the timeline. Because with summer, there's not with the summer school, there's not the opportunity to have, like a week-long icebreaker and a getting to know you session. And we have to hit the ground running, and we have to hit it hard. And again, it's, the difference between, having having so much time to prepare beforehand as well. Again, it's all to do with time, isn't it? Having that luxury, we don't really have that in summer school. So going back to what I said in the input session, the flexibility is really important. We have to know that, from day to day, things could change. So we would not have, I would not recommend that a summer school teacher would plan weeks in advance. I just would not would not recommend that, because you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what's going to change, you don't know what the preferences are. And again, going back to the students, you don't know them really, as we said in the video. So I think the main difference is that flexibility. But also, you know, with when you, if you're sort of sticking to the rule book after your CELTA, I think you might be quite surprised with what summer school would ask from you. So I suppose a flexible summer school teacher would not be surprised, because they would know that they would have to jump from one thing to the other.
Yeah, you actually said, because it's about the differences in how we teach. I mean, obviously, classroom management will remain the same. I mean, whatever you learn on your CELTA course, it's valid at a summer camp as well. So classroom management will always be classroom management. But in terms of teaching, I just love what you said earlier in the video. It's almost like you hit the nail on the head. I think you see this beautiful differentiation between learners of English and users of English. Now, I kind of feel that you nailed it, okay, by differentiating between these two, because I think that what happens in a year-round classroom is we deal with learners of English, right? But at a summer camp, we actually deal with users of English. So again, I don't know about your summer schools, but what we do is we kind of this idea of students being users rather than learners is really the driving force behind kind of whatever we do. Yeah. So the approach we adopt is that students are not supposed to be learning new things, but activating the knowledge and the language skills they already have. So you see, I often like to say that it's better to teach below the level, okay, and help students activate what they already have, as opposed to feeding them with more grammar. You know, like grammar is a forbidden word at our campus, okay? We kind of we don't teach grammar, okay? Even when we do it kind of functionally. So grammar is just a function. So I think this is the main difference for me. I mean, from my experience, I kind of feel that we are not teaching students, we're helping them to use the language they already have, and that's it. That's the main difference for me.
Yeah, I like to think, Gabby, about summer school. That and I totally agree with you about grammar. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a grammar geek. I love it. I think it's so much fun just to pick it apart. But that's my hobby. That's what I like to do. It's not what the students are coming to Scotland or to your camp or any camp. That's not what they're coming for. And I often like to say that summer school has to be the balance between summer and school. So it is their summer holidays. They are coming, you know, from their home country. They've been working all year in a school environment. And what we have to do is we have to take English as a language or English as a subject out of the classroom, sometimes literally, but show them that this isn't something to be studied that is boring and, you know, that you get nothing from. This is a communication tool. English is a communication tool that, you know, will help you make friends and will help you, you know, get a job in the future, will help you order your breakfast. You know, it's something that is tangible at that point. And I think that that's so important when, you know, when our students see English, you know, everywhere all around them, they can hear it all around them, and they start to get into you know, start to take on the idea that this isn't just some boring notebook full of here we go for more study. It's something that's actually useful and actually practical.
I have a cheeky question for you. It's going to be difficult to answer,
Okay.
maybe, but I kind of feel that teachers who have no experience, okay, with summer camps may, or even the ones who have experience, may actually take issue with what you said in the video about planning. I don't know if you remember, you kind of mentioned careful planning. So my question for you, Suzanne, is how does it really, or how is it possible when, say, you're a residential teacher and your week is 6 days of teaching and activities, and the earliest you actually finish is 6:30 in the evening, sometimes 9 o'clock, sometimes 11 o'clock. So let's talk about planning. I mean, um, how how can teachers plan in such a busy day?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I think the first thing that we have to establish here is that all teachers plan differently. So there's not one answer and there's not one golden rule, I would say. Some teachers who are, absolutely every detail is planned to the nth degree, they will perhaps take longer than somebody else who will, skim read a lesson plan. And let's face facts that there are two extremes, but they exist. I'm sure we both know teachers that fall into those two categories and everything in between. So I think that's the first thing we have to think about. But certainly in our summer school, we make sure that prep time is available. We make sure that there is time for teachers, to be able to sit down, clear their head, and plan their lessons, essentially. So that's the first thing we do. We do that through time management and time blocking, essentially. So we give them time to do that. However, what we also do is we send out the syllabus in advance. And in advance, they can see not just we can see not just that there's there's lesson plans to follow, but also there's lots of resources that they can tap into that should the teachers wish to do that. We try to give them their topics, and we try to give them their levels as well in advance, so that they will be able to generally have a bit of have an overview, so that can be done beforehand as well. But we very much do believe in time blocking, because some of our teachers will want a lot, or will work better with a longer preparation time, and others will, bish bash bosh, it's done, and then they're off playing tennis. So we do accommodate for both. I think it's important to do so.
Yeah, because realistically, there is very little time for planning, right? I mean, and teachers often find themselves in the situation where, they could say, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I thought, I would have 2 or 3 hours to plan." So this is yet another difference, right, between, say, a year-round school where you have the time to plan. There's no time to do that. Really and truly, there's not much time to plan.
Certainly not compared to a year-round school. No, there's not. Gabby, there is a question in
I can
the.
see that. I'm just looking at this question from Stephen. Did you want to? Yeah.
That's interesting. So I've been Scottish my entire life, and I've always had this accent, and I have been teaching for 24 years now. Has it ever been an issue? No. Has it ever been spoken about? Yes. I'll tell you a funny story, Stephen. A couple of years ago, I had a parent of one of the students that was coming to our summer school, and she phoned up all in a panic, and I think she was maybe French or German. I sort of think that's where they came from. Anyway, and she phoned and she said to me, "Oh, will my daughter leave with a Scottish accent?" And I said, "Well, I hope so." Because essentially, if you can come to my summer school and leave with a native speaker level accent, I think I've done a pretty good job there. Has it ever been an issue? Yes and no. Anybody who you know, who thinks that, you know, people say, oh yes, well, Scottish people talk funny. Okay. But to us, other people talk funny. That's, I mean, essentially that's the answer. That's the beauty of English. If you are a rugby fan or a Formula One fan or a sports fan in any way, you're going to hear Scottish accents. If you are, and if you're interested in politics, you're going to hear Scottish accents. I really do not think that anyone who wants a well-rounded understanding of English would cut out any accents. Um, I did at one time didn't get a job, and that was what they said was because you're Scottish. And I said, well, do you know what? That's fine. I'll go and get a job somewhere else, and I did. So there you go.
But I think it's beautiful, right? I mean, giving students this exposure to different accents. To be honest, I don't know about you, but when we hire teachers, when we look for teachers for summer programs, I actually have this policy that, you know, I like a nice balance of like male, female, but also the different accents. Because I mean, what's the fun if you have everybody speaking the same language the same way? I mean, so it's kind of it's good to have teachers from different parts of the UK,
I
and
totally.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I think that essentially, you know, I do the same as you, Gabby. When I'm hiring teachers, I hope for an array of different accents. So if you come to Scotland, yes, there'll be Scottish English teachers, but there'll also be English teachers, Australian English teachers. There's an array of different accents, and it is beautiful. It's wonderful because that's what English is. This year down in our school in Yorkshire, we have somebody from, you know, a teacher from Northern Ireland as well, which is another lovely regional accent. So, you know, there's a lot to be said, I think, for that. Stephen is saying, my takeaway from this is that all of the experience of living and using English is very exciting and encouraging. Wonderful, Stephen. I love that. I think I agree. Yes.
Yeah, and what I want, well, the two of us and maybe the participants as well, to kind of put our heads together and brainstorm ideas about is the cultural element of kind of classroom teaching, if you will. So, because again, this is another difference between what we do in a year-round school and classroom and what happens at a summer camp. So culture, you mentioned several times in your video. And I was just wondering if you could kind of say again why this is so important and what is the role of culture in the classroom, and how can teachers somehow kind of include this element of culture in their daily teaching at a, you know, summer camp.
That's such an important question, I think, Gabby. When we have summer camps, we invite students from all over to come, and they come all with the same intention of making friends and having a great time, essentially. When they do meet other people from different cultures, a lot of them are, you know, they're curious, they ask questions, they want to know more, but sometimes there is a clash of cultures. And that is something we have to prepare our teachers for. When we're in the classroom, we have to think about what's like what I was saying in the video. What are the subjects we want to cover and what are the subjects we don't want to cover, and how do we handle that? Now, one of the things I said in the video was, let's talk about food. Now, that might be that might be controversial for some, but it's the way that we handle it. That's what's important. So if we have, for example, a class with Spanish and Italian students in it, they're all going to think that their food is the best food. Great, lovely. Prove it to me. Tell me why. Let's have a debate. Let's have a, you know, let's actually have a conversation where the two sides meet brainstorm, give each other, ideas about, their reasonings. Why is it? It can't just be because, my mum cooks better than your mum. That's not the reason. That's not acceptable. So tell me more about it. So I like to try and embrace these culture differences, and I like to bring them to the front in the class. So that we can get as much from it as we possibly can, and then that increases our learning, increases our knowledge. It means that we can start to build bridges across cultures and understand more about each other. That's the way I like to have that in the classroom.
Thank you, Suzanne. Now, there is a question from Carrie's, and it's a brilliant question.
Okay.
So, what would be the top resources you'd suggest bringing with you to summer school? Of course, apart from your personality and your hobbies, because you mentioned personality, and I think that it's very, very important. There's a lot of teaching through your personality at a summer camp as well. It's so important sharing with your students and kind of, using your hobbies in the classroom, using your interests. So apart from that, what would you say would be the top resources?
I would say, if you're residential, bring your own pillow. Because a good night's sleep, Gabby, is so important. It's good to prepare yourself for the day ahead. Apart from bringing your own pillow, I would say lots of interactive materials. So what are the things that you like to work with? What are the things that you work with well and have done it so in the past? I would bring well, I see my teachers coming in and I'm always in awe of them, I'll be honest with you, because they always have, like a bag full of, they've got glue guns, they've got glitter, they've got pens, they've got paints, they've got all these different things to make these make the lessons as interactive and as memorable as possible. I've seen them, making paper mache hot air balloons one time, actually, which was a very interesting thing to do. And so having all these things at your fingertips is absolutely very important. Also, bring that flexibility, bring a big bucket full of flexibility. Bring your sense of humor, absolutely, and bring your curiosity, because as much as the students themselves are, interested to learn about each other and speak to each other, they'll also want to learn about you, and you should learn about them.
Can we very, very quickly also talk about you mentioned it in the video, but let's talk about it again, creating a team. Because again, you see, this is, obviously creating a team is always important, but it's not as important in a year-round school as it is when you are teaching at a summer camp. So why, you said this already, but I want you to say it again because it is so important. Why is it so important to create a team, and why is it so important for you to be a team player when you're at a summer camp?
It's such a good question, Gabby, it really is. It's the support network. That's really what you want to be involved in, because it's wonderful. We're all in it together, and when you are delivering a certain lesson, you can come back out into the staff room and have that conversation. This is what happened. This is how can I do that better? And then somebody else can sort of say, well, this is what I would do. This is what I did. You can also swap notes about students that maybe do have to change levels or have to, go into a different class. But also it's the personal side as well. It's the friends that you make and how you can rely on each other in, if somebody needs some help, somebody needs some support somewhere. Because again, a lot of summer school teachers are going into a school maybe they don't know, and it's the first time, they don't know other people. So the first people to get to know are the people around you. What I think is also very important is to know that teams go through a process when they're forming. forming being the first step, and then they go into storming, which means, you know, people are trying to sort of jostle for position almost, and then they go into a sort of a performing sort of phase, which means that they're working really well together and they're producing a lot together, and that's the sort of environment we want. Otherwise, you know, if you were left to plan and deal with all your bits yourself, it might feel overwhelming. But in a team, you can share that responsibility. It's really, which we think is really important.
It is. Another question. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm bombarding you with questions, but let's very quickly talk about observations. Okay, because like, you know, lesson observations. Because of course you do it, right? I mean, we do it, and I'm sure you do it as well. Now, when you observe teachers teaching at a summer camp, is there something, or do you look for different things than when you observe teachers in a year-round school? Because this may again shed some light on what the teaching is like. So watching your teachers, observing your teachers for developmental purposes, what is it that you actually kind of, what's the first thing that you watch for?
I think it is the creation of rapport, not just with the class, but between students, because that is a really important thing that we have to make sure that our students are doing, and they are performing as a team also. So the first thing I look for is how much are the students producing? How much are they talking to each other and to the teacher? And I think that, while obviously teacher talk time is important year round anyway, we know that. But I think that, you know, the rapport building you can take longer to do that. It doesn't have to happen again hitting the ground running, whereas in a summer school class it does. So I think that you can feel that energy when you go in. Are they performing well? Are they working well together? And if they are, that to me is a successful first step.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, okay, but don't tell anybody. Like, you see, I mean, observations should really take probably about 45 minutes or 60 minutes. You see, so what I do very often is I only spend about 10 or 15 minutes in each class, because you see, I feel like 10 minutes will tell you exactly what is happening in the classroom because of what you have just mentioned. So the collaboration, the rapport, the communication between the students, and the enjoyment, the fun element. I mean, this is really all we want from a good summer camp lesson. Okay, grammar is incidental. Language is important, but it's the language that students use, not learn.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I think that the more that we can build on, you know, and build on and improve the fabric of what they already know, and the more that we can get them to express themselves perhaps in slightly different ways, listening to each other, learning from each other, building on that, I think that it's a really important part of what we offer as the whole summer camp experience, if you like.
So before we wrap it up, Susan, one final question from me.
Sure.
Do you feel like I often do? Do you feel that the importance of the first class and the first day with your students cannot be overestimated? Like, the importance of what happens within the first hour, 3 hours. I mean, I don't know how long your sessions are, but this first day, the first hour, do you feel that this sometimes is absolutely crucial? And then how would you prepare your teachers for this first half an hour, first hour?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I absolutely agree. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So that's essentially what we're talking about. And we want our students to go, wow, this is different. This is great. And as soon as that happens, as soon as that impact happens, then we know that the teacher's going to have a great week, or that, you know, the lessons are going to be received well. How do we prepare our teachers for that? Well, we tell them that, first of all, we don't leave them in the dark. We give them lots of online training, we give them face-to-face training also, and we help them with interesting and interactive icebreakers that are going to take half an hour on that first day. We make sure that they are prepared, they have everything that they need, they have all the resources at their fingertips, and we let them know that we are always here, we're always on campus, we're always there to support them.
Right.